Likewise.
All right, we are on. Kris, you're up.
Hey, welcome to the March version of Business Happy Hour Uncensored. I'm Kris Prochaska, and we're so thrilled you're here. We've got some fun stuff to talk about tonight, some not so fun stuff to talk about as well, but we hope that all of it is, and just the insight into our topics tonight will help serve you in your business. I'd like to introduce my co-hosts. We have Angella Johnson, who on my screen is right to my over here, and Michelle Voss is right down there. So, hey, Michelle, tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do in the world.
Oh, God, that's a big question of what I do in the world.
Besides be fabulous.
Well, right now I just survived food poisoning. That's what I do. That's what I've done for the last 3 days. So you are the first human beings I've spoken to in a while. I showered for you, so that's good. What I do is I help women actually become visible, and then I help them handle that visibility. And I do that through their business, through their branding, through their personal branding, through their business branding, and through their personal work too, right? Because this is it. It's all one and the same. So that's what I do.
Yeah. Awesome. I'm so glad you're here. I'm glad you're feeling better and
yes,
back to the bed. So welcome. Hey, Angella, introduce yourself, your beautiful self.
Well, hi, everybody. So I'm Angella Johnson. I actually am based out of Salt Lake City, Utah. And I'm a business coach who specializes in working with intuitive women who really want to market themselves and message themselves in an effective and authentic way. And so my key focus, messaging, marketing, and also live events. I'm a live event expert, and I love helping people create those experiences that attract ideal clients. So that's me. That's what I do in a nutshell.
Yeah, I love it. I'll introduce myself in a second, but next month we will have at least some sort of a little website up that will have our unbios on there, so you can actually learn who we really are, not our, the stage persona that, of course, our bio that everybody shares when we're speaking and stuff like that. You'll get to see a little bit of the we'll show our panties a little bit. Not
but no bras, because we're not wearing any.
Yeah, exactly.
No, I'm not.
No. So I'm Kris Prochaska, and I live out of Bend, Oregon, and I work with women who are, many of my clients are moms who are in that transition of how do I launch? I have these ideas. My kids are now out of diapers. I have a little more time. What can I do with myself? I got all these ideas. How can I make that happen? And I use my intuition. I use some of the different tools I have for reading. And as a former therapist, I use some clinical work to also help people overcome those fears, to really figure out who they are, what they're about, and how to make money doing that. So it's cool because the three of us all do different, yet they all work together really synergistically. It's beautiful. I love it. That's why I love hanging out with these gals. So how did Business Happy Hour get started? We're in a mastermind group together, and we had this idea where it was like we were having these great conversations, kind of coaching each other, helping each other out, talking about the coaching industry and even just being a woman in business, and what that's like with our relationships. And we're like, why don't we just riff on that? Like, let's talk about that. Let's see if other people want to join in that conversation, that dialogue. And so that's what we're doing. And we decided to invite you to listen in and be a part of that conversation. So there is a chat box. Angella, where do we
if
find
you just mouse over the bottom of your screen, you'll see actually a little icon that looks like a little message bubble. When you click on that, you'll actually open up a chat box. So we'd love to hear from where you guys are from. If you have ahas throughout, you're in this conversation with us. The only videos that are showing are us, just because not everyone's prepared to have everyone see you. So we just want to honor that. So the chat box is a really great place to interact with us. And it looks like, yeah. So Michelle's saying, hi, everyone. So that's just a great place. Then also, if you have questions, if you have something that you want us to go deeper into topic around, that's a great place. And then the 24/7 conversation that's happening is happening on our Facebook group as well. So you've got two places to interact with us. One live here, and then also the Facebook group.
Yeah. Awesome. Awesome. So if you were here with us last month, you would have seen like, well, there was 4 of you. What's going on? And so Alexis Logan was our 4th person, and you know, things change, businesses change, ideas change, and what our needs change. And so so Alexis decided that she needed something else, that she wanted to pursue other things. And so we said, God bless you, live long and prosper, and said, okay. And so now there's 3 of us hanging out together, and along with you gals. So we're so excited that you're here. And it was interesting because as that was happening, we asked for questions on the Facebook page, and one of them said, wow, I just went through a business breakup. What can you speak to that? And I thought, well, shit, that's ironic, right? It's like so amazing how life and everything it all ties together, right? It all ties together. And if you've been in business longer than a day, you'll know that it is all self-growth and all about who are we and who are we becoming, and achieving that. So, if you have had a business breakup, or you're still dealing with one, or you have questions about one, please put it in the chat box. Or if you're listening to the recording, please comment on the Facebook page, and because we'd love to, just hear from you. But I'm gonna launch it over to either Angela or Michelle and talk a little bit about your experiences with business breakup, and then I'll share mine. What do you got, ladies? What do you got for us?
I'll start only because I actually don't have a ton of experience around personally a business breakup, because I've actually had a fear of that happening, in a sense of being in relationship with others in business, because I want to stay in control of my business, and I've always been a little bit hesitant of joining, right? So I've kind of stayed away from it, and I've been a little bit of a lone wolf in that. But I've had clients go through that, and one of the things I'll just say to that is when we've worked through that, what's been interesting is how the business relationship was set up in the first place. That showed a dynamic that ended up just playing out, is what I've witnessed just through my experiences. But yeah.
Yeah, what's interesting is I've been through several business breakups, and some of them, have been really traumatic. And I remember my first event that I ever hosted, I paid $25,000 to a keynote speaker. I didn't have the $25,000. Someone really believed in my mission, and she borrowed the money from a friend and gave it to me. So you can see where this is going, right? This is not going to end well. And it was really traumatic, because when I couldn't pay that money back, like there were a lot of things I did with this first event. It was back in 2009 to 10. And that friendship, actually, it's not a friendship that I have today because of that. And I really saw where people's values were, where I wasn't trusting myself, where other people were trusting me. And I'm like, you really shouldn't, to really be honest with that, but where I was so overly optimistic, but not realistic, and how that impacted a friendship. Now, looking back on that, like, yes, are there things that could have happened differently? And that was probably it was the worst business breakup that I've had. But as I've evolved, what it really is, it's not about taking it personal. It's just about honoring what is your truth and choose for you. And there's a phrase that it's like, oh, well, you're choosing out of X, or you're quitting a program, or you're quitting this, whatever. And I actually challenge that, because are you really choosing out, or are you choosing yourself finally?
Yeah.
Like, are you out of integrity? And that's a word that gets thrown around so much in the coaching world. It's like, what the hell does that mean? Because when you are in integrity with yourself, then you know what to say yes to and what to say no to. But that has to come first, is that inner alignment of only say yes to the things that it's a whole body yes. It's not a maybe. I think we use this 80-20 rule, like we talk ourselves into that last 20% that feels like shit. Mm-hmm. You're like, no, it's really going to be fine. No, listen to that. Mm-hmm. Listen to that. And it's got to be 100% hell yes. Like, yes, whole body yes. And I find that when I do that, there are actually far less and far fewer breakups because I'm just honest and open, and I'm just doing what works for me, and I'm not saying no, or I'm not saying yes when I really mean maybe, which is, a delayed no. So those are my thoughts initially.
And I want to just add on what you just said, Angela, and that's, I love what you said. Completely agree, but I do want to point out the one piece about watching patterns, because I think there are a lot of people who, and I guess this is uncensored, so fuck it. I don't want this to mean, I was like, no. What I mean is that there's a lot of people who are like, I'll just choose for me. Like, I'm choosing this. And it's like, and that is just a pattern that they are running, and they're not actually choosing for them. They're choosing for their operating pattern. They're actually choosing out of not knowing what they're actually doing. They're just in an operating pattern. And so it can look like, right, that they're choosing for them, but they're really not. They're actually being highly unconscious about the whole thing. So I love that you said that, because it's kind of like there's no, obviously we all know this, there's no right or wrong to any of it. It's what is that pattern? Are you choosing from a true place of choice? And I'm looking at you because you're over here on that side. I feel like I have to go this way.
Yeah.
Are you actually choosing, truly choosing, or is it a operating pattern that looks very convenient, right, for you to stay safe and not actually step into your power, or actually follow through? Because there's a lot of people who just can't fucking follow through.
Right. It's interesting, as you were saying that, Michelle, I was thinking about when I was younger, when I was in my 20s and I was getting my master's degree, and there was a gal that we wanted to do a group together, and it was like right at the last minute before we were gonna pull the trigger and really do everything. I was like, no. And it was interesting because I had kind of been a no for a while, but my pattern was that I wouldn't say anything. I didn't want to upset anybody, and I was afraid, and it was like, and so it ended up, really not great, of course, because she was pissed and she couldn't understand why I was like, I know this isn't working. And then I felt like I had gotten kind of over that, and then had a breakup, a couple years ago, which was really difficult for me. But in retrospect, when I looked back on it, and it took me like a year to get over, I realized that. So I was in a group of 4, and it all started out awesome, but very quickly it was clear to me that the dynamics in that group were really off. There were a number of levels of where they were off. And I mean, so much so that there was one person in the group that every time the other 2 gals were talking, she would be completely engaged. But as soon as I started talking, she would pick up her phone and start texting. And then because I was so scared and had this like, well, why the fuck is this happening? And I didn't have my voice. As Angela and I were talking about recently, it's like I just kept swallowing my voice. I just kept swallowing it. I never said anything. And because I never said anything, it got worse and worse and worse. And then when I finally was like, I've fucking had enough of this, it was too late. It was just too late. It had gone too far. And so that's like, when I look back in that pattern, it's like, wow, where did I really not use my voice and say, this isn't fitting for me? Like early on, and trusting that inner voice, which of course is everything I fucking write about. I'm one of those people, I'm an ironic learner. Some people learn, I guess someone would say it's experiential. Well, all of my experiences are, ironic, like always at the core. I'm like, oh, this is what I'm all about. I'm teaching it. And then I have it smack me upside the head. Oh yeah, there's another place where it's great fodder, and I get to teach it, at a much deeper level now, but fuck.
But it sucks when it keeps smacking you upside the head.
Yeah,
You're like,
right?
all right, enough. I just like,
I got it.
Right?
I got
Isn't that
it.
though why we're in the business that we're in?
Yeah,
Right?
totally.
This is, you know, that's why we chose a particular topic of our business is
Right.
it's for us because we understand that there is no difference between the personal growth and the business growth and all of that. It's one and the same.
yeah.
And how better? I mean, it sucks sometimes, right? But how better to know that you get to grow all of it or derail all of it, whatever
Right.
is happening. You know, I mean, it's why we do it.
Well, this reminds me of, you know, a topic that I think it was Maya Angelou who said this, is when someone shows you who they are the first time, believe them.
Yeah.
And there's truth in that. And I always get stuck, like I always like smack myself in the face by believing in the potential.
Yeah.
Even the potential of myself. Like this is about myself too, you know, of just like, look at what is instead of what you would like it to be. And I find that when we do that, whether it's a business breakup or a client breakup, you know, we haven't even talked about that. Like when a client's missed, like that's always fun. But really taking a look at that, like, oh, damn it, I saw this from the very beginning.
Yeah.
So am I really pissed at the person or am I pissed at myself for not acknowledging my own intuition and awareness?
Right.
Once again, my gut was right and I overrode it with that 20%, like the 80-20 rule, like, no, it'll be fine. No, it just actually got really damn messy because I didn't acknowledge what I was feeling.
Yes.
You know, so do you think that, you know, when someone believes, or when people show who they are the first time, believe them, how true is that? Is that always true? Is that sometimes true? Like, how do you guys work with that?
I can't say it's always 100% true because it depends on where that information is coming from. If you are assessing or discerning or judging a person, then I don't take it to the extreme of really believing it, because it's coming through our filters, right? It's coming through all of our own stuff.
Right.
If it is coming through a truly intuitive place and then you ignore it, well then buckle up, baby, because a shitstorm's going to happen at some point. It's just going to, right? Because so that's how I watch it. And I can't always tell because sometimes I'm like, you know, and it's like, and that's it. That's all I get. Like, that's interesting. And I don't fully know yet if it's fully intuitive or there's just a flag. Like, I'm not sure if it's me. Like, I'm not totally sure yet, but I'm getting better at watching a little bit of the patterns. And here's one thing I'll say to you about because I think the client breakup is a topic that I think is important. I feel pretty lucky that I haven't had to fire a client, but there is a client I should have fired. And I didn't, and I stuck it out, and I wish I wouldn't have. I mean, I really wish I would have fired her a long time ago. She's no longer a client now, so those who've been on the call, like,
it's not any
clients are there. It's not you, so don't worry. But I was thinking back to what went wrong in a sense, right? What was that missing piece? Like, why didn't I see it? And what I really felt, and as I've thought back to it, is actually in the beginning, we didn't actually have a traditional sort of setting about how she ended up enrolling with me. It was sort of a different context. And I didn't sort of put her through the quote unquote ringer of really, in my clients, you know, the sort of system. I didn't put her through that. And that I think is partly why, in the sense of not doing my due diligence. I got sloppy. I got lax. I just kind of was like, yeah, okay, right? Like, that'd be great. Like, it'll be great. And I didn't really walk her through with my business hat on going, is she the right client? Is she ready? to do the work, because that was really the issue. She wasn't. And there's no judgment. She just wasn't ready. And, you know, and I skipped it. I skipped steps. And that's my pattern. I'm a step skipper. And it bites me in the ass when I do it.
You know, it's, I think I'm better at telling the difference between, is it my filter, or is it like Michelle was saying, like the filter of, oh, that, you know, whatever, given the day or the context or whatever is happening, and my intuition. And and it's just taken a long time to actually notice the patterns. It's sort of like a, having something happen over and over again and go, oh, right. That's what that energy is. Oh, that's what that energy is. Oh, I felt this before. Wait a minute, take note. And so that's for sure with me, where it's interesting, because I think when you're growing up, it shows up in a certain way. And then when you're in business and I kind of come in with maybe a little bit like you do, Angela, where it's like, I automatically assume everybody's competent and ready to go until they show me otherwise. And, you know, and I've heard from people that are really great and successful, they have it flipped. They're just like, I assume nobody's fucking ready and nobody's going to do anything until they show me, that they prove to me something. And that's an interesting dynamic. I don't, you know, so I think in some ways it's just taken me a little bit longer to notice notice the signs and be able to tell, oh, yeah, this one's going down that path. But the key is that what I've noticed is that there's that knowing, and then there's the overriding it. That can be the habit, is that, you know, we all know. We actually do know. It's just how big is the habit of overriding that knowing, and how fast do you override it? How potently do you override it? How, you know, diligently you override it. I mean, that's the undo. That's what we have to undo. I think we already know it. We know what's going on.
Right. So. Well, you know, Kris and I, we had a recent conversation about just that whole concept of speak your truth. And there are some people who speak their truth, like give feedback to someone, that they can't even receive it, because it's just our opinion, our perception of like, well, I'm going to give you this feedback because I'm speaking my truth to tell you what I think. And it's like, they can't even receive it. And so in those cases, it's just the awareness by itself is enough. And it's not about judgment. It's about, I'm just aware that this doesn't work for me. I'm aware that this pattern is showing up and I actually desire something else. Especially like if you guys are hiring team, you know, like this potentialitis, as I call it, shows up everywhere for me. Like in my team, I'm like, wow, they're making that same mistake again. Oh, but you know what? It's okay. Because they're going through a hard time, or they're blah, 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 blah. Or I have high expectations and I don't want to be a bitch. That's usually where I override it. And it's just simple awareness and honoring that. But honoring it doesn't necessarily mean beating someone down, telling them what you think, or, you know what, I'm letting you go because of this. It's just, this isn't simply working out. It's just really, it can be that simple. It's not about owing anyone an explanation. It's about honoring what is, but also tuning into what can they even receive. And then also what Michelle talked about is like, it's just my own shit. It actually has nothing to do with them. None of it's real. It's my own filter, my own bullshit right in front of me for me to take a look at, that it would be showing up regardless of who the person is, whether it's a team member, a spouse, a child, you know, a mastermind member, you know, whatever it is, client. But it's just a very subtle sometimes difference of awareness versus judgment.
Yeah, definitely. So what's oh, go ahead, Michelle.
I was just curious about people who are dialing in. So just a couple logistics. We have everyone muted. We have everyone's video turned off just to make sure that the recording stays clear. So if you guys have comments of like, hey, I do that too, just scroll down over the bottom of where you'll see the videos and you'll see a chat box. The other thing that you can do is if in the upper right hand corner you'll see a speaker view versus gallery view. So if you would like to see all three of us, then you just click it until you see it. And you might just see the person who's speaking. So those are two controls that you guys have access to. But yeah, I'd love to hear from you guys as far as, you know, business breakups, client breakups, marriage breakups. Like it's all around the same topic of, are you honoring what actually works for you? Or is it a pattern of where you use the backdoor exit of like, oh, no, too much, I'm out. Mm-hmm. And it's like that lack of follow through could also be the reason why, you know, for the breakup.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, no, we'll watch this to see what everybody says, but I'd like to open up a conversation around vulnerability.
No!
I have wine, it's good.
Okay, if we have to. No.
Yeah.
What do you mean with that?
Well, I think it's I had some well, you know, before let's actually, somebody just posted here, so let's table the vulnerability and
yeah, thank God, no.
Thank you, whoever just saved us. No, just kidding.
So, and I'm not sure who this is. K-Rod. So K-Rod, can you read that? Anyway, sorry.
Carrie.
Thank you. I was like, it doesn't seem like that's an actual name. K-Rod.
Yeah.
Could be a gang name, K-Rod. My recent big business breakup was actually really awesome for me in the sense that I learned a lot about myself, honoring my boundaries and my tendency to be more excited about what other people think about me. Oh my God, that's it, right? Like that's our life. That's our business is to, we have to take a look at what are we actually learning through this experience? Because if everything was all, you know, rainbow sunshines and unicorns, we ain't gonna learn shit.
Yeah, it's true.
It's the hard stuff.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I see Joan wrote, you know, it's a pattern of not trusting myself. I go to sleep in a partnership at times and put my intuition on the back burner. Oh my goodness. Like, so it's, why do we do that? It's so, I was watching something yesterday, Michelle, we were talking about this earlier, where it's on my personal Facebook page. I forwarded it. I can post it in the business Facebook, the business happy hour. And it's about the new super moon eclipse that we had yesterday. Mm-hmm. And one of the things I really love that this guy was talking about is that it's about sacrificing. What is sacrificing? It's actually giving something up to the sacred. And how much are, when we think, oh, I don't want to sacrifice anything. And yet what we end up sacrificing and giving up to the sacred is the sacredness of us. That inner voice, that intuition. And we're so quick to toss that to the side and be like, well, do I look good? Am I fitting in? Is everything, are they going to like me? I mean, it's so amazing how we'll sacrifice the sacred to the, you know, and stay in the smaller place. So crazy.
Yeah. Well, Joni also says my business breakup was the best thing last year. It made me stand on my own and own my own stuff.
Yeah, right on.
I think that's, you know, it's that retrospect. It's like in hindsight, I remember when I was fired from a mastermind, and just recently it's come up again because I'm so grateful. I am so grateful that they honored what was, because I didn't have the voice yet to put words to it. I could see that it wasn't working, that I was not a fit for what they were creating, that it was time for me to create something different. But my God, it was devastating. I was crushed.
Yeah.
But it was now, it's like, wow, that they have the courage to speak up, even if it was a place that I couldn't quite hear what they were saying or the way that it was delivered, right? Mm-hmm. The delivery was really the biggest issue I had with it. But they were absolutely right on, and they were honoring what was sacred for them.
Yeah.
And it just wasn't a match. And I think that part of this conversation is about, like, what if we just did take it so damn personal, you know?
Oh,
Oh my God. What if, that's just funny because it's like, that is the nutshell of life, right? It's like, what if we just didn't take it personally? What if we just really recognized it for what it was? And that is energies aligning or not aligning. And that's it. And that's it.
Right. That there doesn't have to be like this big story. This is kind of what Angela and I were talking about. It's like, well, you know, sometimes, right, in the coaching industry, it's like, well, what am I creating here? Like, how is this, like, it just keeps showing up, like, what is it about? And sometimes I look at it and I go, in order to figure that out, you have to completely acknowledge that maybe it has nothing to do with you at all.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because if we automatically go to there's something here I have to look at, it actually, it's this close, and then we just smash it against our face that much closer. Do you know what I mean? And so it's like, what if it had nothing to do with you at all, and you just push it out there a little bit, and then it becomes very clear how it's about you. It just reveals itself in a different way.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it brings me to something that I know we've talked about, is everything is a reflection of you, right? Like, that's the coach, what I call the coach bullshit, and also some truth in that.
Yeah, totally.
But I have a different perspective too. It's like, it's either a reflection of you or a reflection of what you're tolerating.
Yes.
Like, it's that, like, smack in the face of, like, are you going to keep tolerating this?
Yeah.
Because it's not like, it's something that you've healed within you. Like, it's it may be a shadow. It might be something that from the past, but it's not your operating pattern currently. But it's showing up to go, are you truly done with this? Are you truly actually willing to stand your ground? You know, that way.
Right. And I think that's what I agree. Yeah. Where it's like, sometimes we're like, oh my God, we go right to that question. It's not a bad question. It's just sometimes misapplied question. Yeah. But I like that. What am I tolerating still that I'm actually done with?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just got off of, before having food poisoning, I was actually in Austin, and I attended Wizard Academy, which sounds ridiculous. The name is ridiculous. But he's actually the Wizard of Marketing, and that's why it's entitled Wizard. Brilliant. I don't think I've actually ever been in the company of somebody that intelligent before, truly. And I'm married to somebody freaking crazy smart.
What are you saying about Kris and I? Like, I don't know.
Sorry, you're not that smart. Sorry.
Just kidding.
I'm just saying.
I see how it is. I'm about to take it personal. So
yeah, just a brilliant mind, right? I mean, just, you've met before. They're just like, oh my God, like, how do you even live in that? And we discussed string theory. I mean, I guess my brain is so fried. String theory, quantum mechanics, quantum physics, all related to marketing. Fascinating. Wow. Fascinating stuff. And it really started to help me, not even help me, because I haven't fully integrated it at all. I actually think that's part of the food poisoning, was my husband and I releasing and surrendering a lot of old operating patterns, actually, and like doing a full reboot. Sounds weird, but I just intuitively know that that's part of what was happening for us both. And it's just fascinating to look at the concepts in the coaching world, and I'm immersed in it. I have taught coaching. I mean, I'm fully immersed in it. But looking at the industry and this whole, we're all mirrors, and you know, this perception and all this stuff. And it's like, yeah, and right? Because if you actually are studying the universe and the shit that's going on and how complex it actually is, it's like, I don't know if that's true. I'm not saying it's not true. I'm saying because there is such a deeper things. I mean, just string theory in itself, I can spell it. That's about it, people. Like, that's it. But string theory, talk about energy vibrations, right? If we just saw where's an energy vibration match, that's kind of like string theory. Everything is operating at this core energy level that is so much deeper and larger than we can even begin to imagine. We can't actually imagine it. So I think it's like, how do we actually, like Kris said, pull back in a way that just allows us to say, everything I knew doesn't have to be true. Mm-hmm. And everything I know can be true. To just allow us to actually be in the moment of actual energy versus all this other stuff that's going on, because that is where we just keep looping and looping and looping. And we play those things out constantly. We play it out in our business, we play it out in our marriages. And it's just fascinating to pull back in a really different perspective and start analyzing it. Actually, I take it back, not analyzing it. That's the point.
Being with it.
Being with it, exactly. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's got me thinking.
Yeah, definitely. It's interesting you brought up the string theory. I had a conversation with a really brilliant guy, healer locally, and we were talking about unified field theory and morphic fields and marketing from that place and creating from that place, and how people talk about, well, you got to create a movement. And we were talking about how actually what it is, it's not about having a movement. It's actually about tapping into the field of whatever it is that you're creating, not creating, but aware of, right? Like, I'm aware of this field called sacred leadership that won't leave me alone. Like, it wants to be written through me, and it wants to be talked about and taught. And it's like, okay, well, how do I do that? And it's about tapping into the field and inviting people to play in the field, which is very different than, I have an idea and I'm going to tell everybody how to do it. And if they don't do it, and I'm going to license it. And if they don't do it correctly, then I'm going to sue them and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, how it started from this really expanded place, but now it's mine. And so then now you have to do it the way I do it. And it's this whole, that's where probably business breakups can happen too. Whereas I look at it and I'm like, hey man, I don't know in that fucking field, but I'm tapping into it. I'm inviting people, because that field is way more it's smarter than me, and has
smarter than me.
I know. and so it's way more, like, I'm just an assistant to introducing what my perception of the field is, right? So so I think it anyway, I don't know where we got into that, but it doesn't matter. It's all going in the same direction, right?
Like, I think that's awesome though, because it is about business, right? This is a lot of business creation and your signature system and all the stuff. I mean, stuff that I teach you guys, we all teach it, right? It's what we do. And it's yes, like, if that's a yes, like, yes, we know it works. Yes, we know it works in the industry. Like, it's a good thing. And there's this whole other energetic level that this is what I love. And this is why we wanted to do this, is because we get to talk about these things, that these are the things that are going on. How do we take an idea and run with it and own it without owning it in a way that we take it so personally or whatever, right? We take something so big and try to squish it down and make small because it's now mine and now my ego's involved.
Yes, it's so, yeah, we have to step away from that. I mean, even today, like, I'm doing this salon after this, and I had all these people say, oh, I really want to do it. And I kept tapping into the field, and I was like, okay, field, where is everybody? And this morning when I was in my jammies drinking a cup of tea, there was nobody who had registered. And now there's like 9 people showing up in an hour. And I went, holy, and my husband goes, how did you do that? I said, I don't know. I think it's the field. And it's not about me. I just, like, it changes our marketing. It changes all I said was, I know there's a number of people that need to play in the field tonight. And I'm just going to keep figuring out who those people are. And it had nothing to do with, are they coming for me?
Mm-hmm.
it's changed my perception of what I'm doing in my marketing. Does that make sense to you guys? Angela, you look like you're working.
I'm going to play devil's advocate for a second, because it does have something to do with you. Because you are that filter that people can actually hear, whether it's the field or the message or the concept or the whatever, but you're communicating energetically in your verbiage and just who you're being, that they can actually hear it, and it's, it just like, it triggered something of like, when we hear like, oh, the devil made me do it, right? That phrase. But it's the same thing, like, oh, the quantum field made me do it, or God made me do it. I'm calling bullshit on all of it. Like, it is you. Because you listened, you took action, you actually held space for it, you're showing up. So it is you, and it's the field. It's not just like, oh, well, it's just, it just happened anyway. It was just meant to be. You know what I mean? Like, I think
do, because I did
take it to that other level. And it's like, it is you. Like, you are friggin' important and amazing to the process.
Right. I did take action. So you're right. It wasn't that I just sat there in my jammies all day. I mean, I had conversations. I did things. I took action. I followed up. For sure.
Business and ideas, I think, are like the birth of a child. It's that it's greater than us. We gestate it, right? We nurture it, we birth it, and we nurture it to grow. But it's still not, it's ours, but it's not.
Right.
It's meant to do something else. It's meant to be greater than us. Right. But it is through us. And that's where then, and I'm not a parent, but I can imagine that would be challenging to have that push-pull of, they are their own entity, separate from, but I'm responsible. And how not to stifle by putting our ego really in there, but to put our energy to nurture, guide, find, support, right? Do what needs to be done and take action, because and just for everybody, for all the future references, all of us are in full agreement that, law of attraction of sitting on your ass and just focusing on the feeling of it and visualizing it is bullshit. It is part of it.
What?
It's part of it. It's what amplifies the energy, but it's then do something, right? Can put it into action, because a lot of the right-brained people, a lot of the heart-centered people just want to stay in that space of manifestation, and then they wonder why they're broke as shit.
Yeah, and I know for myself too, back when I was doing a lot more therapy and energy therapy, that I would sit on my couch like tapping, like I practically had bruises. I'd be tapping and trying to clear everything. And I think we do need to clear stuff. Absolutely. We need to integrate. We need to own that stuff. We need to move that energy in some way. But if you think that that's the only thing you have to do, and not have to take any action, I cleared it and then it changed. Because I think there are a lot of coaches out there who do that kind of work, who don't have and I'm thinking of someone who's not on this call right now, who that's like how people change without any other behavior, or that it's not that that can't work. It's that the marketing of it makes it sound like it's going to everything's going to turn around, and it does, but it's still turning around like that. It's not. Does that make sense? Like quantum leaps are a lot of steps that get to a quantum leap. Right, yes. Angela, we've talked about this.
My biggest joke I would say is when I finally, did really well in financially is I'm a 15-year overnight success.
Yeah, exactly.
15 years I've been an entrepreneur, not in the same industry, but 15 years I've been at this. And then things did click, but I put it into action, right? You absolutely have to put it into action.
Yes.
Huge.
Yeah.
Well, I think we've all probably been there. I know when I first started, I was so trying to manifest my way to money.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I kept thinking, oh my God, I must really be so screwed up with my money because it's not happening.
Mm-hmm.
No, I wasn't having friggin' sales conversations. Like, that's what wasn't happening. There was nothing wrong with my mindset. I had no external proof. It was all right here. And that can be a really dangerous place.
Mm.
And so it's like, yeah, do the mindset work. Of course. Like, you've got to do
Yes.
that inner work. It's a constant journey. You've never arrived. You've got to anchor those energetic imprints with action.
Yes.
Like, there has to be something to be tethered to so you can create habits. Like, I think just about my money relationship now versus 5 years ago, holy shit, night and day. Like, night and day, just crazy. And I've been thinking about, like, what really created that change? Yes, mindset work, partly.
Mm-hmm.
I started doing things radically different.
Mm-hmm.
I did things that were really uncomfortable. And I feel like sometimes, especially with this talk of like, oh, it's about the divine feminine coming in, and totally agree with that. And you know what? Divine feminine does not mean just sit back and just like allow everything to happen for you. It's allowing and receiving. And sometimes it's like being the mama bear of like, this shit is going to change now.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm not doing this another day.
Mm-hmm.
I am changing now and never looking back. And that is that kind of a masculine push, but when it's anchored in that feminine of like that deep, deep soul, it's like, it works. And so I could tell I'm getting a little fired up because this whole like battle of masculine and feminine of like, oh, I'm just going to sit back and relax. It's like, really? Like, you're just going to let life happen to you and just somehow magically appear at a 6-figure business or whatever the goal is? It's like, no, there's action. And oftentimes a lot of really uncomfortable action, but it's based in that desire. It's not based on well, I have to do this. It's just a totally different intention behind it. I don't know if that makes sense. But.
It does. And what's interesting is that I mean, you can kind of tell I'm not a super girly girl. Like, if I have to wear a dress, okay, fine. But for the most part, I don't, right? I don't look like, the super gorgeous long hair, like well dressed, pencil skirt, gorgeous figure, dressed to the nines, jewelry, nothing, not that that's wrong. There's anything wrong with that. I just don't look like that. It's not. And so when we have that idea of that's the divine feminine, that you have to be very luxurious and have this certain look and look like, you know what I mean?
You just made her throw up, okay? You just made her throw up.
I got wine.
Choking on wine.
Are you
Sorry.
okay?
I'm going to try to gracefully, like, not die for a second.
Okay.
It happens. So sorry.
Don't die.
That's the divine feminine coming through.
Yeah, exactly. She snorts wine. Anyway, there's that sense of like, well, if you kind of dress like a diva or something like that, that it's all going to come to you. And the thing is that there's so much that's so not sexy. Like if you look really sexy, it'll be easier. Something, I don't know. Maybe this is my own shit in my own head, and that's fine. You guys could say that.
It might be your own shit.
Yeah, it probably is, but my own story, right? Like the honest truth is that like going out and speaking and doing all these things and traveling and working behind the scenes is not sexy. It's often not. I know both of you have had experiences where you go and you speak and you're maybe driving somewhere, or you're flying in and you're like, oh my God, I got bags. What am I going to, and shoot, I need a safety pin to pin my bra strap so it doesn't show while I'm on stage. I mean, there's so many things that just aren't sexy. And so I know for myself that there's times where I'm like, oh God, I feel so like herky jerky and clumsy and all of that. I'm so not in my divine feminine. And now I'm starting to go, oh hell no, that is the divine feminine. She's like, okay, we'll just get it done. And it's not about being sexy, but it's about being strong. And yeah, good question, Angela.
Mm-hmm.
I would love to hear from you guys of what does divine feminine mean to you? Because it's something really up for me currently of just really being more embodied and more vulnerable. And I recently did a consult with a guy who owns a recovery center, and we met at a place I spoke at, and we're talking about just what your soul purpose is. And I shared with the group of my soul purpose is to empower women to speak their truth and remember that their voice matters. And I noticed when I was saying it, I choked a little bit on the words, ironic, right? When I talked about like empowering women to do that. And he shared with me, he said, you know, it's actually about empowering the feminine voice, because I have a divine feminine. This is what he was saying to me. And it's part of his current journey. And I was so grateful for that feedback, because I don't want to exclude people necessarily. But it's like that whole divine feminine, like, what does that really mean? I think it's a term just like authenticity. It's thrown around a lot. Yeah. But what does it really mean? And why are we focused on that? Why is this the era of the divine feminine? And does that really actually, is it real, or is it a fad? Is it like, these are some of the questions I have. I don't have the answers yet, but I'd love to hear from you guys, and also Kris and Michelle. What does that really mean?
Well, I mean, I think it's absolutely real, because it's an energy. It's masculine energy and feminine energy, and there's neutral energy. It's just simply an energy. Mm-hmm. And I think it's up because it's obviously the masculine energy has been the left brain energy. It's what is idolized and what is honored in our society, right? It's the left brain, the more masculine side. So there's this uprising, in a sense, right, of honor the divine feminine. And I think it's great. I love that we're doing that. And it's just a pendulum swing. That's it. Mm-hmm. There's no right or wrong. It's a pendulum swing of the feminine rising, and women really stepping into their power and owning their feminine energy, recognizing that feminine energy does not equal sexuality. That is one teeny piece of a giant thing of feminine energy. Yeah. And it's not what is just made up in our society. So I think that it's open for exploration. I think that we're really open to exploring it, because we haven't been able to. This is really the first time, I think, in our history that I know of, I'm not a big history person, but from my knowledge, mm-hmm. that we've really actually been allowed to start to explore that in a really healthy way, mm-hmm. and not just sexualized or the mother, but not Madonna type, archetypes, right? We're open to exploring it. Yeah, so it's a fad, but it's just a pendulum swing, which I love. I'm thrilled about it. But I think it'll all neutral out, and not neutral and flat, as in neutral in recognizing that it's all holistic. It's all just energy, feminine, masculine, neutral, light, dark, shadows, all of it. It's just energy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the rebalancing of it. Yeah.
Yeah, and is it really a fad, or is it actually just what we're talking about? It's like tapping into this field that's existed, that more of us are being aware of, mm-hmm. and we're tapping into it in our own way, in our own unique expression of like, hey, there's something really here, I love what was it? Carrie said, it means to honor the part of me that is nurturing and brings focus to relationship and community, and encouraging others to respond to that within themselves. Mm-hmm. Balancing of energies. Oh yeah, Carrie said it's not a fad, it's a rising of the collective consciousness. Yeah, mm-hmm. I can see that, absolutely. Mm-hmm. Cool. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But I think for me, as I was sitting with it, it was like, for me, what it means is the willingness to receive more. Because most of my life has been like push, 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 make things, like I have made really serious shit happen. I can get shit done really fast, really quickly, and really well. And I'm completely depleted at the end of it. And so it's about allowing to receive and also create at the same time. And it's just this fun dance that I'm currently in of like, what does it really mean to honor the divine feminine? I don't have to make everything happen as if it's just up to me,
So here's something that's interesting. I'm just going to throw this out there, because this training that I had was also a lot around the brain and understanding how the brain works in relationship to marketing and branding and all of that stuff. And it was a lot about the left brain and the right brain. So left brain is masculine energy, basically, right? It's logical. It's more single focus, wants to figure things out, whatever. And the right brain is more intuitive, right? More emotions. It's the feeling. It's not logical. It's not there to actually compose things. And the brain is actually one of the things he said that was interesting to me. He said, if you have he's like, it's not two halves of one brain. Because you actually, the way that the brains operate, it's actually more like two separate brains. And I was like, huh. And then as he was talking about that, I was like, masculine, feminine energy. Again, it's the same of a collective whole, energy, right? Brain, it's a collective whole, but they are very different, very separate. So what if really this is just about the two halves of our brain, masculine and feminine?
Yeah, and I mean, if we look at it, I might have the name of it wrong, but it's that ridge that separates the two, and how many connections you have between the two. How integrated are you, and able to go back and forth between the two hemispheres of the brain, between the two brains, if you will. Right. And it's interesting because as you girls were just talking, and I was, reflecting on my talking about how you have to look all sexy and everything, is that I think that's the part of the fad that I perceive it as a fad. But then I just asked myself a little bit deeper underneath that, listening to what it means to receive, listening to, that, and I just tapped in for myself of like, oh yeah, it is being that receptive vessel. It is being in the body more than in the mind. And we are biological sexual beings. And so there is that. When we're owning it, though, we're not like, there's a difference between it being like we're projected onto as sexual versus owning that creative, potent energy. And so I don't know exactly what it means, but I'll still be hanging out with it. It's kind of like what Carrie was talking about too, and both Carries, of that collective energy, that collective unconscious of, we are all connected. We can't not be. And when we are in tune with that, we feel that connection, and we feel it in the physical, and we feel it in the emotional, and it's about being there instead of up here. Mm-hmm. So that's where I'm at.
Yeah. Well, it's allowing the energy to go whole body instead of just here.
Yes.
Right. Talking head, trying to live life and create magical things. It's like, it doesn't work.
Right.
There's a reason I had adrenal fatigue for years, Yeah. Like, it requires all of me in this body. So I think that for me, the feminine energy is really actually linked to embodiment, visibility, what Michelle talks a lot about, teaches.
Right. And yeah, you're right, Carrie. There's that brain in our gut. I mean, our serotonin and our neurotransmitters that bring about that sense of satisfaction and satiety and or satiation or whatever, that's in the gut. And I've been noticing over the last few years how many women and young girls who are carrying more weight around the middle. Like, I don't know if you noticed that, but in the last 5 years, it's like explosive. It's really amazing to me. I don't know what that's about. Maybe it's a whole nother show, but it's just like, where are we? What are we doing? What's going on with that?
Yeah. Where are we holding our energy or blocking our energy?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Right. Mm-hmm. Right. Yep. Yeah. Having that sacral gut intuitive place, within us. Are we muffling that with a muffin top?
Yeah.
Well, shit, I've been muffling that for years then.
Oh, girl, I'm telling you what. That's why I'm so happy we're like in the chest.
Yeah. We're all from the waist up, or like boobs up, really. So
yeah,
it's
exactly. Always good. Yep.
Oh, cool.
I would love to hear from you guys. Sorry, go, Kris.
God, we're almost at the end, and I just appreciate everybody who hung out with us tonight. We covered, quantum physics, business breakups, muffin tops. What else did we talk about? Divine feminine. I think we covered everything. We've almost got the world figured out, but maybe next month.
Yeah, stay tuned. We'll keep you posted.
Stay tuned. So everybody, please, we'd love to see your comments in the Facebook page. Invite your friends to come. Thank you so much for everybody who commented tonight. And And thank you to Angela and Michelle. I love having drinks with you and just ripping. You both impressed me so much. I'm just like, wow, that's cool. I never thought of that. So thank you for blowing my mind.
Yeah, and I just want to invite everyone who you're on, if you've got questions or topics that you'd like us to cover. I know for me, like, I would love to know more about the string theory in marketing and this field. That's actually a very new concept for me. I've not heard that specifically, until this week. And so I would love, maybe, you and Michelle, Kris and Michelle, you could do a little like mini training about what does that really mean? Because I think it's fascinating to know that for our business to be successful, it doesn't have to mean we're just following this formula or following this energy. It's like we actually are tapping into something that is doing the heavy lifting already. Yes. Like the hard work is already done. We're just tapping into it. That feels a lot more damn fun than, oh my God, I've got to figure out how to do this. That energy. So I think that could be a really great topic moving forward. But I'd love for you guys to just share, whether it's in the chat box here or on Facebook, of what would you love to focus on? What, is there something that you'd love to receive? What would you love to receive from this conversation that we're having once a month?
Yeah. No, I think that's great. And I don't know how much I can teach you on the string theory, but you did see the photo where we were also drinking wine the entire time.
From like 10 a.m. in the morning, I was like, they actually go to this training.
They actually busted it out at 8. I did not partake. There's no way. I actually didn't even have any till a little bit later, but much later than 8. But it's interesting. I actually just want to share about that, what that is, because why that was done was not because it's all about alcohol. It's not it. It's because he wanted the experience to have your left brain say, this doesn't make sense. I'm sitting in a training, a quote unquote, I paid money. I'm in a seat that has tables. This is a classroom. And he wanted to throw the left brain a loop and to say something unexpected is going to happen because this is not normal. And that's why they pour wine or any other drink actually that you want. And I found that to be very, very cool. So I'm going to be doing that at my events.
I love it.
Yeah. So interesting stuff. But anyway, yes, thank you guys so much for showing up and just being here with us. You can see this is kind of our riff. We don't have anything scripted. We don't have anything planned at all, any way, shape, or form. Because that's not how we roll, and that's not how you would roll if you showed up and had drinks with us. We would just hang out and we would just talk about stuff, and that's what we really wanted this to be. So I hope you're enjoying it as much as we are. We're having a good time. And definitely invite your friends. We're going to really be doing some more promotion. Just kind of this is just our second one in the next month. And so we'll get more conversation happening and more engagement and more ahas.
Awesome.
Cheers, everyone.
Cheers.
Yes.
Cheers. We'll see you next month.
See you next month.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.